Welcome to r/Reddit Revenge. This is a story of someone getting back at someone with revenge after being wronged. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel and for so many likes. The first story. Frustrated with a disorganized coworker's behavior, a stationery store employee takes revenge by removing the convenience she had borrowed without permission. The second story. Problematic coworker's attempt at revenge backfires when she quits, leaving her with a hefty debt for unpaid education expenses. The third story. Freeloader wanted my convenient food, but I refused. Later, their dramatic hunger ploy backfired, costing them friends. The first story is, get peeved and play the victim when I take away a small amount of the convenience I gave you in the first place? Say goodbye to the rest of it. Backstory. My grandparents owned a stationery store that I grew up working in, and when it closed down in 2012, we auctioned off all of our stock. The couple that bought most of it also offered me a job, which I took. They're great people, but it's the least organized workplace I've ever seen. Little by little, I've been gutting and resetting sections of the store, changes that go largely ignored, but hey, gives me something to do. Anyway, my latest project was to consolidate and organize all the envelopes. If you've ever worked in a place that sells greeting cards, you'd know envelopes get pretty much everywhere. There were stacks and piles and tote boxes of them everywhere. Last time we had a really slow day, about 2 months ago, I went around and collected all the envelopes, literally thousands of them. I put them all neatly into 2 unused stock drawers. Then I kind of forgot about it for a while. In that time, this one worker, let's call her Emma, found my stash and started using it, because well, it's hella convenient. I've been told that once upon a time, Emma was quite a fastidious worker, but sometime before I started, she decided she was done cleaning up after everyone, which apparently included herself. She works opening and I work close, and without fail, every time I come in, I need to spend upwards of half an hour cleaning up after her. Piles of boxes tossed in the back room that I need to take the garbage out of and flatten. Bills shoved into the register haphazardly. Notes for me to do tasks she could have done in less time it took to write said note, and so on. Did I mention that Emma had several boxes of envelopes that were marked Emma's Do Not Touch? And those were the only envelopes in the store I didn't move? Yeah, she abandoned those when she found my stash. So the other day it's slow enough for me to get back to my project. First step was to separate the envelopes by company to be sorted by size and color. So I pull out all the envelopes, pick out the ones from a certain company, and toss the rest back in the drawers haphazardly. That's about as far as I get, so I leave it like that during my days off. I come back to find this note. Whoever made a mess in the envelope drawer, please fix it. So tired of cleaning up after everyone. Thanks, Emma. Of course, how rude of me to work on my own project that I never said you could use in the first place. Maybe if I didn't spend an hour cleaning up after you that shift, I would have had more time to clean up after myself. So anyway, I improvised a new step in my project, packing all the cards in that drawer into tote boxes and hiding them in the back room. A completely empty drawer is a clean one, right? Your creative approach to solving this problem was just a fun and amusing response. It even seems to have increased the level of organization in the workplace, if all the envelopes are now in boxes. Your response to Emma's situation was the best response to her ban and complaint. Let's see how she was doing the cleanup thing at work, and then complaining about someone losing the envelopes you had put in the boxes in an organized manner. It seems like this story would make great material for anecdotes in the workplace. Perhaps it will even help Emma become more organized, and appreciate your efforts in organizing the store. The story also shows that it's important to strive for harmony and order in the workplace, and sometimes the responsibility for this may fall on the shoulders of employees. The second story is, she thought she got revenge, but it was mine. I work for a small municipal department in a rural area. We have 10 employees and some volunteers. I'm in charge of daily operations, and I answer to someone else. One of my team decided what she did not like me anymore. When I was promoted to this position a couple years ago, and had generally been a pain in the A for everyone, she complains about everyone endlessly, about how nobody ever does anything except her. When I work with her, I'm in my office from 8 a.m. until 9 or 10 p.m. working, while she sits on the couch and watches TV most of the day. Most days she'll clean for an hour. Occasionally she gets in a mood and cleans for several hours. She worked with a volunteer the day before, but had already left work by the time I got there at 6:45 for my 7 o'clock start time. So we have a rather loose uniform standard in my department for the volunteers. Basically, they need to wear a t-shirt identifying them as part of our department. When they're responding in an emergency, that requirement is extremely lax. These are all kept in a closet in the station and issued to new volunteers. Full-time personnel have a $500 a year clothing allowance. I replenish these t-shirts far too often for the amount of people being onboarded. I don't think anybody is stealing them. I think it's more along the lines of, I'm here to respond, but I don't have a t-shirt with me, so they grab a new shirt. So we're approaching the end of our fiscal year, and I still have money in my uniform budget. I place a large order of shirts and these get folded nicely and organized, then placed into the same closet. But this time the door gets locked, so 100 shirts doesn't wander off in a couple months. I left a note on the door that I had locked it, and to contact me off access is needed. This went on for a couple weeks and my pain in the A employee was extremely vocal that she believed it was stupid that the door was locked. There were a few other things stored in there, but mostly just junk that needed disposed of properly and couldn't go into the trash. Old laptops, computer monitors, etc. The way our schedule works, I was out of the office for a week. I got off work at 7 a.m. on Friday, and I was not due back in the office until 7 a.m. the following Friday. I worked one day covering at our North Station, and then the Friday I returned as my weekend to work. On the Monday where I was out of the office, I received a phone call from my pain in the A employee stating that she needed to get into that closet. I didn't ask for a reason why because I didn't think it was necessary. So I told her that the key was in the safe, which all FT employees have access to. I really thought nothing of it. So Friday rolls around. I have a meeting with the county administrator at 7 o'clock. I get to work at 6:45 and open the door to find a large pile of things that had all been in storage with a note. We need to get rid of this stuff. Okay, it's springtime. We're probably due for some spring cleaning, but if you're gonna clean, have a plan to get rid of the crap that you're pulling out of storage. Don't just pull it out and hang a note on it for someone else to deal with. Some of it was from that closet. Some of it was not even ours to get rid of, and some of it was stuff we're absolutely not getting rid of and still needed. I found the original blueprints to our station buried in this pile of stuff to get rid of. So the county administrator walks in. He's instantly peeved because the pain in the A employee spent all day the previous day whining about how I hadn't been there, and nobody's doing anything, and she had to clean this whole station by herself. Same old, same old. Her big pet peeve is garbage cans. If there's a single piece of garbage in a garbage can when I leave, she will call the administrator and complain. When she leaves, if she collects the garbage, it's all stuffed into one can and not taken out. But I'm more the type to just take it out and move on with my day. Take the high road because the low road will get flooded eventually. So instead of having our meeting, we start digging into this pile of stuff because we aren't going to be able to do anything to get rid of it on a Friday. The dump isn't even open, and there's no place around us that recycles electronics. I got to put some of this stuff back in the closet. I go to the safe, the key is missing. Weird. Whatever, there's a spare in my locker. I go get it and try to stick it in the door, and the doorknob has been changed to one that doesn't lock or even accept a key. I'm stunned. She was so annoyed by that one closet that she changed the entire doorknob. The levee just breached. The low road is under a flash flood warning. County administrator calls her immediately. Tells her to turn around and come back to work and change the doorknob back. She tells him no, I have an appointment, and even if I didn't, I don't want that door locked and I quit. The best part is we're paying for some education on her behalf, and she's going to owe us about $18,000 now. Edit. Because we're paying for college classes to advance her career. We pay for the classes, she agrees to work here for 2 years, and she quit before even completing the classes, let alone finishing the 2 years. She's got a contract with us drawn up by the county attorney, where she agrees to stay here for 2 years after she becomes a paramedic in exchange for the classes being paid for up front. If you have an employee or volunteer who exhibits such problematic behavior, you should not continue to tolerate their inappropriate actions. You terminate their employment or involvement. This applies even if it's a government position. And if for any unusual reason, you can't terminate them, you reassign them to a role with no responsibilities and no access to critical matters. You then document everything in an employee improvement plan, and if they violate it, you use that as grounds for their dismissal. But I also like your solution to the problem. Your employee, who's always been a source of problems, got the response she deserved. It seems that she was so annoyed by the locked cabinet door that she decided to take revenge by changing the lock. But her plan backfired when she later ran away from responsibility and quit her job. It was so tempting that she'll now have to repay a large amount for the tuition you sponsored. The third story is when the leech couldn't leech anymore. My best friend had a high school friend who was like a leech. This leech liked to go to events on her friend's dime and guilt her boyfriend into getting her big ticket items because she didn't have a job to pay for things. Worst of all, the leech was constantly late to planned meetings. She liked to make advanced plans, not show up, then text 6 hours later that she couldn't make it. Somehow her no-shows were never her problem. even though it was her who couldn't get her act together to keep her promises. Things with the leech came to a head during one weekend event I attended with my best friend, one of her high school friends, and the leech. Now, the high school friend paid for a hotel room in advance, with the expectation that we would all pay her our fair share back. Yet when the time came, the bill was split between 3, not the 4 of us, because somehow the leech wasn't paying. If that wasn't bad enough, we went into the event with the expectation of bringing snacks for the group, so when we took breaks in the hotel room, we could munch on food. Guess which members brought no food, yet still helped herself to the communal food pile? During the event, there were food trucks where we could buy extra food for ourselves to eat. I had noticed how the leech liked to beg and help herself to food from the other 2 in our group. Eventually, I got the munchies during a time when the rest of the group wasn't hungry, and I got myself some poutine. I was really looking forward to it, because I had never had poutine before this point. Well, the leech saw I bought poutine and begged for some. As this was my first poutine, I decided I didn't want to share food I bought especially for myself with the leech. My frustration with her inability to pay for herself was boiling over, especially because I have no money. Leech was somehow able to buy merchandise at said event, but never seemed to have said money when it came time for food. Remember, the leech had access to free food at the hotel room the rest of us brought to the event. She had access to food at any time, even if it was inconvenient to access. I expected some backlash at not enabling the leech, but the rest of my group didn't care. I decided not to share my food with the leech. They even stepped in to remind the leech it was my food, and there was plenty of food to munch on at our hotel room. The leech sulked, but ultimately decided not to return to the hotel room because she wanted to have more fun than she wanted to eat. In fact, the whole situation backfired on the leech when she later complained about being lightheaded, got medical attention from the event medical team on site, and demanded our group driver pick her up from the hospital because she wanted to get seen at the ER. There was nothing wrong with the leech, other than not eating when there was food available, which was the cause of her feeling sick. The leech wanted to go to the hospital because she could, as she was unemployed and it cost her nothing to visit the ER. Yes, she's the reason why we have to pay taxes for the uninsured using the ER as a primary care doctor. Unexpected, it turns out the group driver didn't want to drive to the hospital to pick the leech up if she got herself sent there, because it would mean the driver would miss out on part of the event she paid for because of Leech's theatrics. This whole saga, plus some other truths about the leech which came to light during the weekend, eventually led to the eviction of the leech from the high school friend group. I like to think part of the well-deserved retribution was the leech's over-the-top reaction to being denied my food. You could point out to her that she would have to pay for this herself, otherwise she cannot participate. If she's unable to pay, this should not affect you and you should not be forced to pay for her bills. When you go out to dinner, you could request separate bills, giving her the choice between paying her bill or not participating. For events, you could communicate that tickets will be purchased on a certain day, and if she doesn't pay her contribution, you won't buy her a ticket. I hope you enjoyed these stories. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel.